Okay, so I'm recording this. Basically, I found a lot of YouTube videos helpful on people chronicling how to build a shed, and so I'm gonna chronicle my building the shed. So what you see here, these are 9. There's 9 of these concrete piers that I poured. They sit about 2 or a little more feet in the ground, and they've got these anchor bolts sticking up out of them, and they've got this plastic on them. Apparently, wet cured concrete is 50% stronger than dry cured concrete. But anyway, these things are going to be what the shed sits on. And you see we have a sloped yard, so the ones in the back are much closer to the ground than the ones closer to the house. So I poured these on Friday, today's Wednesday, so I'm going to give them about a week to properly set, and then I will start putting the floor in. And always remember, and these are 8-inch forms that I use, so the piers are going to be 8 inches wide. Have an extra form to put your extra concrete in. That's what that guy is. Anyway, that's what we have right now. Remember to water them. Water your piers so that they stay wet, so they can set properly. Anyways, that's it for now. Alright, here's the wood I'm going to be using. I'm going to be working on the floor today. So I've got some 4x4s pressure treated, some 2x6s pressure treated, and I think that's all I need for today. And there's some plywood there that I'll be using. And I think these are the tools I'll need. So I've got a miter saw and a power drill and some squares, framing square and a speed square, and a 3-foot level, and some miscellaneous things, but I think that's all I'll need. So time to get to it. Alright, so I've got my beams laid out where I think I want them. So I've got them going down that way. So 1 beam per 3 piers. And I laid it out this way just because there's more room to drill the holes this way than if I were to go that way with the beams. And so you see, try to get them squared up, I set up this line that goes from this bolt down to that one, and I'm measuring an equal distance from the string to the end of this post, so that they'll all be relatively at the same position on this side, on the right side, so that on the left side they'll all be at about the same position there too. So, okay, so I have leveled the 4x4s out, and that's what we have. So that took a little while, but it's worth it. Don't want an unlevel shed, and so I think these things are going to be a problem now. Probably gonna have to cut those and then make little notches in the 2x6s that's gonna sit on top of here. But oh well, I think it'll be okay. Level. Look at that. Anyway, so I'm gonna start putting the 2x6s up there to make the floor. Alright, so I've got all my wood cut for the floor, or the subfloor. These are all 2x6x12s. So these pieces that piece that's facing me right now is 12 feet long. And in order to make a 12x12 box, those cross members need to be 11 feet 9 inches. I also got it squared up, which is very important for your floor. Because if you don't have a square floor, then none of your measurements are going to work out very well. And everybody on YouTube says, make sure your diagonals are the same distance. And what they really mean is use the Pythagorean theorem. So you take this big box and you make 2 triangles out of it. You just draw an imaginary line from there to there. And since it's a 12x12 box, you do 12 squared plus 12 squared equals some unknown number squared. So you take 144 squared plus 144 squared, and you take the square root of that, and you get the diagonal measurement that you're supposed to have. And for this one, it turns out to be 203 inches and about 3/4 of an inch. and I got roughly that, so I'm happy. So now I'm gonna, these are connected here, got those screwed in, and I've got this tacked in place. Well, not tacked, we're not welding, but it's held in place by some screws to the 4x4s. So now I'm going to be using these handy little things that I drew. Those are my 16-inch on center markings. So I'm just going to center up this board with that mark and screw it in. So do that with all these boards, then I should have a subfloor. I think that's about it for now, so I'm just going to go screw those in, then I'll start putting plywood on top. Now I've got the floor all braced, so I had the joist running lengthwise that way, but if you just kind of leave it like that, and these are 16 inches on center, so with this 3/4 inch plywood that I'm using, I've been told it will be a little squishy. So to add extra support for the plywood, I put those braces in, and so those are every 3 feet. So there's 4 boxes go running down the length. And remember, when you cut these, this one is going to be 3/4 of an inch shorter than all of these middle ones. Pro tip. Anyways, I screwed all those in, so now I'm going to put the plywood on. And something I didn't mention was these joist hangers that I hadn't put in before, but I was told was a very good idea. So install joist hangers to hang your joists, floor joists, ceiling joists, whatever. And notice that these are staggered so that you can screw the blocks in on each side. So now I'm going to put this plywood on. I have 5 sheets to cover this 12x12 shed, and I'll have half of a sheet left over, so a 4x4 piece of plywood left, if my calculations are correct. And after I've got everything, before I put down the first piece of plywood, I'm going to make sure that the floor is square. And when it's square, I'm going to, right now the floor is not, it's just tacked down with that screw there and one on that other corner. So I'm going to square up the frame of the floor with the first piece of plywood. Then I'll just start screwing it all down, and everything should just work. Here's the decking all on, and it's level all directions pretty much, so that's a good thing. What I did, there are 2 layers here. So I put the 3/4 inch that I had on there, and not sure if you can see that, that's on the bottom. And then I got another 1/2 inch treated plywood layer on the top. And the reason for that was the 3/4 inch wasn't as firm as I would have liked, but that's all taken care of now. And I don't know if you can see the pattern, maybe you can, but I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3 full sheets of plywood there, a 4th one here, and then half in the corner. And the layer on the bottom has the same pattern but in reverse, and that's to minimize seam overlapping from the 2 layers. You don't want that. So that corner piece on the bottom layer is over in that corner, so remember to do that. And when I put the second layer on, I use some adhesive that I got at the Restore, Habitat for Humanity. You can see that coming out there. There it is. Anyways, that's very important. Bond the 2 layers together. And when you're screwing the second layer down, you only need to screw into the first layer. So you don't need super long screws to reach into the floor joists. That'd be a little tough. I guess the next step is to start framing stuff. Alright, now I'm getting ready to lay out my first wall, which is going to be on this side of the shed. It's going to have 2 windows. That's irrelevant right now. But first thing we need to do to lay those things out is to get our the box but the frame is going to sit on square. And we do that by snapping chalk lines, which I've done here. And you see the guy going all the way down there. And the way you get that square is you pick your favorite side and start with that guy. So I picked this side since this is where the door is going to be. So the door is going to be here. We're going to be seeing this side. Those are the two sides, not so much. So I wanted to go off of this side. So I measured 3.5 inches from this edge over, and 3.5 inches on that edge. And then I just snapped a line from one point to the other. So that gave me a point to go off of. Then, since I wanted this other side to be the nicer side, I then went and did this one. But the way you do that is you take 3.5 inches from this edge over, but then you need to figure out where exactly your line's going to fall there. So again, you use the Pythagorean theorem, but you use an easier method. There's the 3, 4, 5, or the 6, 8, 10, whichever triangle you feel like calculating. But what it means is you measure 3 feet from your 3.5 inch mark here over, and I think you can see it right there. So that's 3 feet. Maybe that's 4 feet. Can't remember. But one of these is 3 feet, one of these is 4 feet. So then I measured a line over here. I'm in the sun, in the shadows there. I measured over here, and then from that point to that point over there is supposed to be 5 feet. And so wherever that falls on the line over here is where you snap your line. So wherever you make a long line here, and wherever the 5 foot mark falls on this long line, you draw a line that way, and then you snap your line. And so then you go around the whole perimeter doing that. It makes it so that this corner right here is nice. This corner right here is not so nice, but it's nicer than that corner over there. If you're like me and an amateur and everything's not completely square, but this makes sure that the frame is going to be square. So that's what I did there. So now I'm going to start cutting up that wood. I got my 2x12s to make my window headers, structural headers, and I got all those studs over there to frame out the first wall. So I'm going to start cutting and get down to business. One more thing, in order to figure out what I need to cut, I went to Walmart and got this graph composition notebook, and it's fantastic. So you can draw everything to scale and see what you need where, and then you can calculate your dimensions for your lumber. So I highly recommend it. So now I'm going to start cutting, and then I'll get back to you with me putting stuff up, or laying out the frame, I suppose. I've got my wood cut now, and before I can lay everything out, I had to mark my top and bottom plates. So that's what I've got here. I've got them screwed together on their sides, and just marked out everything that I think I'll need. And if we travel on here, it's a little easier. So this is where one of the windows is going to sit. That's the header, and that thing is 2 2x12s cut to the right length that I need, and there's a piece of 1/2 inch plywood sandwich in there so that it's the right width for a 2x4 to go on the bottom. So that guy will sit there, and then if you see my little configuration here, I've got a king stud on the outside, a jack stud holding up the header, and then a cripple stud down on the bottom. And so learning the terminology was interesting. Kings, jacks, cripples, blah blah blah. But that's what they use, so that's what I'm using. And got the same thing over here. So now I just need to lay everything out properly, and we will see what it looks like. So I've got this laid out now. So I started with the rough openings for the windows, put the headers up there where they're supposed to be, then put the the king studs down, the jack studs, and then the cripples, and then I put the little sill for it. So there's 2 of those. And then I just put the normal studs 16 inches on center. And when I had drawn this, there was supposed to be another stud right next to the king stud there. But putting this all together in real life, I don't think that that's really necessary to have 2 full-length studs right next to each other, especially with that header. So I just took those out. So instead of that being 16 inches from there, it's like 18. So I don't think it's a big deal, especially for a shed. It's not going to be holding up a lot of weight. So that's all done. Well, it's all laid out and ready for me to fasten together. So I'll be doing that now. Alright, here's the first wall all framed up. See the windows in there with the king stud right next to the jack stud, right next to the cripples, windowsill. And everything went together fine. There's some scrap wood in there. That's just extra cleaning up. The only thing that went wrong was these headers. I had assumed, silly me, that like most lumber, like the dimensions were a ½ inch shorter than what the nominal dimensions are. So 2 by 12 was really 1.5 by 11 1/4. So my jack studs, I was short 1/4 inch, and that wouldn't do very well. So I had to recut those with fresh pieces of wood. It's very sad. But other than that, everything's looking good. Frame is square. And I just need to put some sheathing on it before I stand it up. So, till the next wall. So here is the first wall, kind of braced up. It's not securely on there, but these braces will hold it in place for the time being. And there's not much to see here except for the sheathing. If we come over here, see that there's a brace going up there on that side, and there's another long brace going up to the top. And I used a level to make sure it was plumb, and a friend to help lift this because this is super heavy, especially with all that plywood and those headers. It just wasn't fun. And but we got it up there for the time being. Now I'm going to work on this back wall here, or what will be the back wall, the wall right next to it on this side. Here's wall number 2 standing. This one went up a whole lot faster, and you can see why. There's only like 10 studs going, side to side. Whereas this guy, I don't know if you can see him very well in the light, but it had a lot more wood. I think I used about 20 pieces of 2 by 4 by 8s for all that stuff. So this wall was a lot lighter and didn't have the headers, so it went a lot faster. So I'm hoping this third wall on this edge here will also go faster. Let's find out. Here's the third wall standing, and second and third wall, it's very helpful to have 2 or 3 other people, well, 2 or 3 people total, getting the wall up so you can get it somewhat plumb and in place. And especially, I put those double top plates on, and apparently you're supposed to wait on those. I didn't. I put them up there with the double top plate on, so they interlock, but it's a tight fit when you're trying to push the wall into the other wall. But anyway, everything's coming together nicely, and I've got my lumber cut for the 4th and final wall. You see this guy is the header for the doorway, and I'm making that the entrance 60, well, it's 61 inches to give you a little bit of room, but a nominal 60-inch doorway. So that's what I got right now. Gonna call it a night, and then tomorrow I'll try to put that wall together. One thing I wanted to mention about the windows, so I put plywood over those, and I saw online an easy way to do this, and it is easy, is to get these things cut out, and I'll show you over here. I already cut this one out. But this guy over here, inside on the corners of the windows, I drilled screws through and left just enough for them for me to be able to run a chalk line to all four corners. So you see I got my chalk line going up there, and then it goes over and down, back over here to the screw. So, just draw a chalk line, then take your circular saw and you just cut it out. And now we have the finished product, 2 windows cut out. Okay, here's the last wall standing, and it's got the plywood up. I found out that walls without plywood are a lot lighter than walls with plywood, especially with that header on there. Well, even with the header on there, it was lighter than lifting up, say, that back wall with all the plywood on it. So we're just gonna walk in, see what we got in here. I still got my bottom plate on the door, so I need to cut that out. But hanging this plywood up vertically wasn't as fun as when it's on the ground. But take a look on the inside here, and there's the header for the doorway. It's made the same way as the headers over here for the windows, just bigger. And we got double jack studs. Mosquitoes. That's why the camera keeps jerking. We got double jack studs holding the doorway up. And let's see what else. So just take a look in the inside. All the walls are pretty plumb. Check that with a level. Just put them on a moderately straight stud and see if it's level in the vertical direction. Well, we have 2 windows, some walls, more mosquitoes. And let's see, my circular saw, I bought it at a garage sale, and apparently the previous owner had sawed through the cord and repaired it. Well, the repair came undone, but it was just as I was cutting out this last window, so that was good. Got that all cut out. Anyway, so the next step, oh, one thing I wanted to mention here was, so these walls are, there's braces on the outside, but they're just there for my peace of mind. These studs in the corners are screwed together, and the double top plates are keeping the tops from, you know, falling one way or the other. And that goes all the way around. Double top plate all the way around. So apparently that is a very useful thing to keep your structure from falling apart. Keeps your corners locked. And I found out that it's much easier if you put those double top plates on after you raise your wall instead of before. Keep that in mind if you're going to do something like this. Anyway, that's what we have right now. Next up is the roof, and I've got all my materials out here. I've got under there some OSB for the sheathing, and I've got 2 2x8x16s that I'm going to cut to 14 feet, and those will be the ridge beam. And then I got all the rest of these 2x6x10s that I'm going to cut to about 9 feet, and we'll have some overhang. And we'll have a overhang on the gable side, which will be this side, and the other side. I don't know what you call the non-gable side, the roof side, maybe. Got my tar paper, or my felt paper. It's not really tar paper, and some miscellaneous roofing things with some ridge vents. Help ventilate the shed. That'll be good. All right, so next up will be the shed roof. Alright, here is the ridge beam. It's up. Well, it's up for the moment. Got it braced that way, and there's another brace going up diagonally to the other beam where the ridge goes up. So we braced it, got the posts plumb in both directions, and now we're going to start putting the rafters on, I assume. But I've got my friend Greg here helping. I don't think I could have done this without him. This is very difficult. Definitely at least a two-person job. Alright, here are the rafters or roof joists, or whatever you want to call them. These are the guys that sit on that make up your roof. Plywood sits on top of that, and your shingles sit on top of those. And I've got almost all of them cut. I got one to go here. I just wanted to show you how I am cutting these and what the anatomy of them is. So you'll see one of them is already up. So what I did is I calculated what the measurement should be. And then I went off of that, and I got this piece of wood that I kept hacking up, because my calculations were for a perfect world with a perfect structure, and this is not one of those. And then I started doubting myself. Maybe it's not the right angle, blah blah blah. Anyway, I eventually came up with a master that actually worked. And that's what all these are based off of. So you'll see the cuts here. There's the cut for the ridge, and so that's at the angle that you want. So, from this angle right here is your angle of your roof that you're going to want. For mine it was 37 degrees. It's close to a 10 and 12 pitch, but not quite. It's probably somewhere in between. And so that's for the ridge. And you go back down here, and there is a cut for the bird's mouth. And you'll notice the bird's mouth is, so this line right here is the same angle as your ridge cut over there, or your plumb cut, as some people call it. So you've got your plumb cut here, which when this rafter is up on the roof, it will be plumb, straight up and down. And this cut over here is the seat cut, because it's the seat of the bird's mouth. That's where this thing sits. So this part right here is going to sit on top of your wall. And I did mine for 2.5 inches, just because that's like leaves this much of the board, which is roughly following the 2/3 rule of cutting birds' mouths. And this is a right angle, because your wall is a right angle. So since this is your plumb line, you just take a framing square, or something that's square, something with measurements that can show you that this is going to be the desired length you want on your seat cut, and then you just make a right angle. And over here is the overhang, and that is also a plumb line. So when this rafter is sitting up there, this will be straight up and down, that cut will be straight up and down, and all the way down there will be straight up and down up at the ridge. So that is the anatomy of my rafter. To figure out exactly where you need to cut this, you need to do some calculations, and then trial and error. I did more trial and error than calculations, but my calculations were close. I was just a little bit off. Anyways, so I've got one of those up, got one of these left to cut, and I've got all these that are already cut and ready to go up. So then I just nail them up there on my ridge beam and tack them down over there for now. I'll be putting hurricane ties on there too. So that's the update for the ridge rafters, or the rafters for the roof. Now we have the rafters put up in place, all the bird knots cut out, and we've got the fascia board there on the end. So the way that I did this, and I had a friend helping, definitely couldn't have done this. It's very hard to do this by yourself. So at least have 2 people do this, because if you got some structure this big, it's very difficult to get those rafters up there in the right spots. But just cut everything on the lines. Then after I wasted a bunch of wood, see that wood over there? That's wood that I wasted because I was a little cut happy. And if you look inside the shed, there's some more wood that was wasted. So make sure you get your measurements right, because I had the measurements for the right side over here, and so I thought, oh, it should be symmetrical over here, but it was slightly different. And so the rafters that worked over here did not work over here. So I had to redo all the cuts for those. That was annoying, but I learned a valuable lesson. Anyway, so all those rafters are up there, nailed in at the top, and they're toe-nailed in on the where they meet the wall. Just for right now, they'll have hurricane ties, and then they're nailed into the fascia board here, which spans the whole length. That's 14 feet, and I'm going to be using this rafter over here as the base to put the trim for the fascia. So that's good. Take a look around here. Let's see. So, found out that if the tops are a little high, that's okay, because you can knock those down. But if they're a little low, then that's bad. So, and what I mean by the tops, like right up there where they meet the ridge board, the ridge beam. So, get those a little higher than a little lower, and you should be okay. And when we put the fascia on, that was also, all of these boards weren't exactly in the right spot. So we marked a chalk line across all the rafters, then cut them straight up so they'd all be, I used a level to make the line plumb, and then cut those to the right length, so then we have a straight fascia board there, and a straight fascia board there. Lovely. What else am I going to do? I need to put glue up at the top where the rafters meet the ridge beam, because probably can't see it here, there's a little gap, because I couldn't get it perfect. I wanted to get it perfect, but I couldn't. So glue will suffice to handle the gap. So what I'm going to work on now is, back up, you'll see this, triangle here. Well, there needs to be a wall. The wall needs to keep going up until the roof. So I'm gonna put the beams, or the studs that go up and complete that triangle. So then you can put what's that stuff called? Sheathing on the sides. So that's what's going on right now. So I'm gonna work on that, and then I'm hoping to get some sheathing up on the roof. That'll be exciting. Roof will be well underway to being done. Now we've got the sheathing on the roof, and it's starting to actually look like a structure, not just a big box sitting on the ground. I see I got my ledges up there so I could progressively put the sheathing up top. So there is, let's see, one sheet there, and they're cut to length. Another sheet, and then a thinner strip going across the top, about 9 inches wide. And same on the other side. And I left a gap on the inside, up near the ridge, for the ridge vents. So let's see if we can see that. Yeah. So there's the gap on either side of the ridge for the ridge vents. And there's a slight gap between each of the pieces of sheathing. That's for expansion due to humidity, things like that. And I think that's about it for the sheathing. Right now I'm going to put on the felt paper. Actually, the other thing I did was I put on, see if you can see it up there, the drip edge. So the drip edge is to keep water off of your seams, so water doesn't seep in. And so you put the drip edge on this piece, the fascia board here. Then you put the felt paper on, and then you put drip edge going along this rafter here, and that'll keep wind from blowing up into the under the felt paper and the shingles and blowing your shingles off. So that's what that's for. So now I'm going to put on the felt paper, then put on the other drip edge, and then I'm ready to put on the shingles. Now I've got the, I've skipped a few steps, but I put the tar paper on, like I said I was going to. So you see there's a seam for the tar paper up there, and you overlap the top sheet over the bottom sheet so that if water gets on it, it all flows down and doesn't hit your structure. And see the drip edge over there on the edge. I don't know if I can get to that corner, but you'll see that this drip edge under here is underneath that drip edge on the side. So it goes, the drip edge is under here, and then the tar paper's on top, and then that drip edge is on top of both of those things along the edge, so that if water gets on there, it goes away from your structure. And now I've started to do the shingling. And if you look at these guys, you'll say, why are they upside down? And I asked that same question to my friend who's showing me this. And he eventually answered that it's a starter row. So what you do that for is because when you've got your shingles and you've got these edges, or these channels here that are open, normally they're facing this way. But for the first row, you do it this way, so that when you put things on top, like this seam here isn't touching your tar paper, there's another shingle under there. So when water eventually channels its way down here, it goes here and it touches a shingle instead of touching the tar paper or your structure. And it's like that all the way down there. And so this edge right there, it's the same deal. Instead of having another edge, or instead of having just the tar paper right underneath it, you have a shingle, and that keeps water off your structure. So I've got the first row, I've got the starter row done, first row almost done, and this is pretty quick. Just keep nailing it, and you need to make sure that when you nail your rows, you want to nail somewhere near this little strip, because when you overlap your shingles, nailing here, so let's say the second row, nailing here makes it so that you nail at the top edge of this shingle. So when you nail these things in, they're nailed here and here. Because if they're only nailed here, that's a bad thing. So you want to make sure you put at least 2 nails in each shingle for each place that you nail. So, I'm going to get to it, see how it comes along. Now I've got the roof all done, yay! Well, it's all shingled, and the roof is weather-proofed. So I don't need to worry about rain anymore, which was the main goal of trying to get the roof on. But as I showed before, the shingles went on row after row. You just kind of stagger them. You can see the stair-step pattern. And that's really, you need to follow the directions inside of your shingles package. And that seems to be one of those things where you have to read the directions. Because I got 2 different types of shingles. The first one, I didn't get enough of, because I didn't read the package properly, because it was poorly labeled. Anyway, the directions on that were completely different from the directions for these ones. The first ones were architectural shingles. These ones were 3-tab shingles. Anyway, everything went on pretty smoothly. You can see up at the top there's a ridge vent. I'll get up there in a minute. Stepping on a tarp. But I started on this side over here, work my way over, which leaves overhang of your shingles. So you just have to go through with a shingle blade and cut them. Let me show you that real quick. This thing is a blade for cutting shingles. Invaluable. Regular razor blades don't work very well. This one cuts through them like butter, especially when they're warm or hot from the noonday sun. Anyways, that goes all the way up there, and I don't know if you noticed from last time, but I put these blocks in to stabilize these rafters on the outside. Before they were a little jiggly since they don't rest on the wall, so those blocks were necessary. The spacing isn't very important. It was just get them stable, and that worked. And you can see the drip edge there, and the drip edge over there. And now I will cross dissolve up to the the roof so you can see what the ridge vent looks like. Alright, up on the roof now. And you can see the shingles up close. See there, nails under there, nailed to the strip. And what I found very important with these are 3-tab shingles from Home Depot. But right underneath this black strip, on the other side of the shingle, is another black strip with tar, I assume, that has plastic over it. You should take the plastic off. Anyways, so here's the ridge vent. And we got all our shingles on there. And here's the edge up close. It just shingles, shingles, shingles. And you can see up there the drip edge is cut on this part. You just snip it and then you can bend it over your ridge. And I'll hope that you can see this. Each of these is 1 tab of these 3-tab shingles. It's just 1 tab cut and kind of tapered back a little on each edge, and then they're just laid on top of each other and nailed. And then those go on first, and then you get the ridge vent. And I got this from Home Depot. It comes in 4-foot sections. You just lay it in the middle, nail it in, and make sure that on your inside of your roof you've got, I don't know if you can see that, there's a gap, and that is for the vent. So the idea is that all of your hot air from your structure goes up, up, up to the ridge is the highest point, because that's what hot air does, it rises, and goes through that ridge vent and comes out those holes there, and I don't know if you can see these holes here. So you put that on, and then you just shingle over it like you shingle here. Nail through it, and eventually, somewhere in the middle, my friend who knows about roofing was helping me with this. It was invaluable, and we needed a rope while we were up here at the top. Didn't feel safe. But you double back, so you put one of these shingles, you put one of these shingles, but then you have the black stuff showing. So then you just take the colored material from your shingles and you put that back on top of your black stuff, and you nail it in and then put some roofing tar or something like that on it, and then you're all set, and you got a nice ridge vent. You got all your shingles. Unfortunately, a bunch of pine needles already on it, but it's a shed. It'll deal with it. Anything else? I don't think so right now. So I've got a few more things I can do. Well, a few. There's still a lot to be done. Still need to do the siding. Need windows. I need to anchor my structure. Well, so our building codes require that a shed 12 by 12 have the corners anchored into the ground. And I would think these pylons would be fine, but as an extra measure, I'm going to take some cable, some steel cable, and drill a hole in each corner. Well, actually 2 holes. A hole right there and a hole right there, and then wrap the steel cable around the edges, have that go down underneath the structure and go onto those 4x4s. So it creates a loop, and then just tie that off with some ferrules. I don't know if that's how you pronounce the word, but that's what I'm going to use. So I've got quite a few things I still need to do, and fortunately stuff is already in the shed. Stuff that was in the garage, but I think I can work around that. And I need hurricane ties for those rafters up there. So, still a lot of work to do. I'll find out what I'm going to do next. Alright, I'm working on siding right now. My friend and I got some siding done yesterday, but I thought I'd stop here before I start working today and show you what exactly I'm working with, because I never put siding up before, and it's like a fancy jigsaw puzzle. So there's lots of different little pieces, but they, well, not lots, there's only basically 4 different pieces, 5 different pieces, and they fit together really well, so you can't tell where they fit together. So like this little piece here is a piece of the siding that we're using. It has a little nailing strip on top, and on the back here there's a little lip down here. and this is so it hooks in to the top of another piece of siding right here. So the bottom of one piece of siding hooks into the top of another. And so that's why it looks continuous, but it's not. And they hook together really well. You know when you've got them hooked together. There are these types of pieces. They have this they have a nailing strip on the bottom and a pocket inside. And these are for at the top. So like at the top, you tuck that in there when you get to the top of wherever you're running your siding. Or if you've got a door or window, and I'll show you where I've done those, this stuff goes into the side here. So it just tucks in there. So lots of little pockets and crevices for the siding to tuck into. And that's basically it for the siding and the where that sticks into. You have to cut different pieces around your windows and doors, and I'll show you what I did there. But then there are these little runners for the soffit, and so instead of having a pocket that faces down, they face out, because the soffit runs from the side of your wall to your fascia board, and it sits in this pocket here. And I'll climb up on a ladder and show you where we did some of that. And then the soffit, which is just this, it's like the siding, similar, but it's vented. And we went with all vinyl stuff because I could have done plywood. It would have been cheaper, definitely, but then I would have to paint it, maintain it, and vinyl's not really going to go bad for a long, long time. So that's why I'm doing that. So we get up here on this ladder, maybe cut this part out of the video, and hopefully I can get enough light. So the light sensor on this camera is kind of annoying. Alright, so I'm up here on the ladder, and you'll see here's the little runner for the soffit. It's level with the fascia board here, so that the soffit goes inside that little pocket and over here, and it will screw into the bottom of the fascia board. And that's pretty simple. You just gotta kind of stack them one on top of the other and go down. And I'll show you that when I get to it. Haven't done that anywhere yet. There's this corner piece, which I haven't shown you yet, but it's like this other pocket thing at the top, but it's just for the sides, and it makes the corners look nice. And if you can see over here on the window, we got some more of this same pocket runner thing. I don't know what to call these pieces, so I'm sure I'm using the wrong names for all of them. But those are around the windows. Tried to make it look nice by cutting a 45-degree angle on one of them and then tucking the other one in. Since we're not professionals, it's probably not the way to do it, but that's what we did. My friend and I were working yesterday to get a lot of this done, and it goes down there. But it looks pretty decent from far away. It's a shed. Not too concerned about it. And then there's all the siding. And still haven't figured out exactly how to do the bottom, like secure the bottom to the shed so it doesn't flap up. But let's see, we got that window done. Neighbor is vacuuming their lawn for some odd reason. This is just one long side, and then I'll have to run some of the runner for the soffit up the angle there and back down, and cut the siding pieces to length. And I'm still not sure what to do about the corner there. My friend who's done this stuff before, he's got an idea of what to do there, so I'll let him figure that stuff out. But then another corner and another full side. And so the way that we did these things, we put the soffit runner up first, then we put the corner pieces on, and then we put that top pocket on, and then the very last thing you do is put the siding on, starting from the bottom, going up top. And it's really easy to put on, really fast, and we use roofing nails to just, because we had a lot of those left over, and those have a big head, so they hold the siding on pretty well. So that's that for right now. I'm gonna frame in the door there with the with that material, the little pockets. And then I'm going to start putting the siding up on this side. I gotta leave this area right here empty because no siding's gonna go in there. I'm gonna put a ramp so we don't have to keep stepping up into the shed, but the ramp's gonna come most likely last. So that's it for the siding for now. Show you what we get when we get to it. Alright, so I got siding done on the doorway side. See how it looks? Looking pretty snazzy. You see the little nailing strip up there for the siding. And it's going pretty well. And I just need to start tapering it as it goes up. And if I go closer, you can see that there's the little pocket piece for the siding, and then there's the little runner for the soffit. And haven't been putting any soffit up anywhere else, but it's coming along. Alright, so it's been a while since I last did a video, so a lot of stuff has been added, but I'll try and go through exactly what. So right now you can see we got the fascia board on, or the fascia over top of the fascia board, and we got these corners. Let me see if I can get out of the sun so you can see one of these corners better. There we go. Got the corners, got the soffit going all the way up, got all the siding on, which is nice, and my friend Greg helped me out a lot since he knows about this stuff and I don't, so I was his helper on most of this stuff. Soffit going down there, fascia, all the siding, pretty much all the trim, and yeah, it's coming along, almost usable. So the big things we need to work on now are, you can see this is still a big gaping hole, but we got some work to do there. So doors and a ramp of some variety. Still trying to figure out what to do for that. But for doors, we decided to get two of these big 36-inch doors. See if I can get out of here. There we go. And we'll use these as sliding doors, so they will slide over there when they're open. And when they're shut, they'll just slide and cover up the opening here. And have to make that so that they're sturdy enough to be used as shed sliding doors. But so that's what I'm going to work on now. See if I can get those up by myself. If I can't, I'll enlist some help. And these are just untreated, so I'm going to stain them just to give them some protection from the weather. And probably, well, they're nice doors, heavy. So, see how that goes. Okay, so somebody asked me how the shed is holding up. I think it's something like 5 years later. So I'll go do a little overview of the shed. So first notice we got some shutters up, the windows. The siding's holding up pretty well, the roof's doing just fine. Nothing wrong there. Shouldn't be. It's 15-year shingles at least, and I don't know, the roof's not getting much use. It's a little dirty, but the siding's still holding up just fine. And footings are still intact. Everything. There's got some junk back here, but other than just some mildew and some dirt. You see the portion closest to the ground of the frame is just fine. Pressure treated wood. And not rotting. So, move over yonder. I think one of the biggest things that I did that's changed is put some actual doors on. And that was because the other door sucked. Totally. Completely. Sliding doors is a bad idea. So, got a deadbolt, regular handle. This other door, I got this anchored into the floor and to the top of the frame. So we got something to anchor on. But let's lift these up and pull that down, and then that guy opens up, so I can get things like the lawnmower out, whatnot. Built some shelves, lovely. Also put in some rafters. So those are 2x4s, but I double them out. And there's nothing really heavy up there, so it's not really massively load bearing. So I wouldn't trust putting something super heavy up there. But those are just fine, and they're screwed into the rafters up there. Some Rubbermaid Fast Track. Organize some stuff. And kind of the most annoying thing about this thing being up off the ground is having to have a ramp to get the lawnmower out. But other than that, everything is holding up well. The floor is holding up fine. Here's one of the doors. And this track, it just didn't work out well. And the doors were starting to rot. I think it's just the crappy nature of those doors. Windows are good. Inside's good. Have some wasps that like to eat the wood up there to make their little paper nests, but other than that, nothing gets in here. Wasps are about the biggest thing it does. Floor's good. Walls are still good. Yeah, so shed's holding up well, sturdy. I recommend building it like this, like a little house. Might be overkill, but whatever. So, yeah. Next time you build a shed, put real doors on it and build it like a little house. There you go.